Well, let's take advantage of the time you do have, and let's roll up into our first thing, which will be the Temple of Doom review.
All right, movie of the week.
Movie of the week. So Robert,
we're
why don't you give the good people a synopsis?
okay. Well, this is we're moving along through the Indiana Jones trilogy. We're not going to do that horrible one that came out years later.
Yeah, we don't. That's not. Yeah, we here at Nocturnal Transmissions. That's not canon.
We don't recognize.
Yeah, we don't recognize it as canon.
One thing I had to say about Temple of Doom is that because it's been a while actually since I've watched Temple of Doom. It's probably been a good 10 years since I've seen Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I know a lot. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen this one quite as much, and there was a lot that I was like I had forgotten about in this movie. I mean, obviously I remember the characters. You know, Short Round. Who could forget Short Round?
Yeah. It's like okie dokie, Dr. Jones.
Yeah, yeah. And then the singer that he kind of sort of like protects and kidnaps at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in the first scene is he takes her hostage. Because the I guess the crime boss he was dealing with is trying to double cross him, and so he takes the lounge singer as a hostage.
Yeah.
So.
So the other thing that I for whatever reason, I don't know why I remember Temple of Doom being like in like South America, but it does not take place in South America. It's in India.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so the movie starts out, and Indiana has already picked up this artifact that he's looking to exchange for specific like diamond that he's been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this kind of he's in Shanghai in the mid-30s, and he's kind of in a standoff with this crime boss who's trying to, as Andy stated, is trying to double cross him. And he almost like gets what he wants, but come to find out they've poisoned his drink that he guzzles down, and so to get the antidote, he kind of has to give back the diamond, and he kind of almost loses everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hijinks ensue, and there's a battle that goes on in this like nightclub that they're in. And he kind of came in very 007-esque, if I must say.
In the tux and in the white jacket and all that. Yeah, it was very James Bond.
And so he finally Indiana Jones, in his spectacular way, makes his escape out of the nightclub with the lounge singer that he was kind of hanging out with the crime boss, and this is where we meet his young sidekick Short Round that he met, and they make their escape on a plane that actually turns out to be owned by the crime boss, and so he knows the pilots, and it's pretty much like they end up dumping out all the fuel in the middle of nowhere, and then jumping out of the plane while all of them are sleeping. And so they crash land in India, and that's where kind of they come across this village of people who pretty much had their almost entire village like burned down, and all their children stolen. And like this artifact that this stone that is supposed to bring them good fortune and all sorts of good things, and that's where Indiana Jones goes to search out this stone and figure out what happened. And that's pretty much like the the synopsis of the movie. That's without giving away the whole plot of the movie or scene by scene. That's pretty much what the Temple of Doom is about.
Yeah. So because it's kind of a misdirect initially, because you think it's about like like in the opening scene where they do like the dirty deal, but then it goes off in this other adventure where they deal with like this cult and it's stealing the children from the village, and like there's the kids are being brainwashed. I think the leader, the prince of the Indian village, he gets kidnapped and he gets brainwashed into this cult, and
Yeah.
and what was what was the deity or who?
It was like Kali.
Yeah. It was like the cult of Kali, and like one of like the head priest or like the lead acolyte, he would like rip people's he would rip people's hearts out from their chest, and
Yeah, that's the practical effects from that scene were really awesome. They did a great job.
I forget is Temple of Doom kind of like a prequel in that it the events of Temple of Doom precede Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was always my understanding.
Because it starts off in Shanghai in 1935, and you might be right on that. Hold on, I'm gonna look that up because I think you might be right.
Right.
Because I was thinking the same thing where like it kind of seemed like that might be the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even though it's funny, I just we just watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I can't remember if they ever indicate the year or whatever in Raiders.
Yeah, at the very beginning, like when it opens up, it's Shanghai 1935.
And Raiders takes place like a little bit later that decade, or maybe even like in the 40s, right?
I think it's like late 30s is
right.
when.
Okay, yeah.
The first one. Let me see. Yeah, you know what? I was. Yeah, so it came out in 1984. It's the second installment, and it's a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. You were correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense because if you're obviously after the first one, he meets back up with his with Marianne, and it's like all of a sudden he's in this one. It's like where the hell did she go?
Yeah, where Marianne? Yeah. Where did Marianne go?
Yeah, if you weren't paying attention, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, 1935. That was before the events of the first movie. So it's kind of these adventures of Indiana Jones. It's not necessarily in order. It's just telling different stories of adventures that he's been on.
So yeah, it's in a way it's kind of an anthology, even though.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like telling stories out of order, but so if you were to think about it, Temple of Doom is actually the first one, and Raiders is actually the second one. But
right.
Yeah, I will admit the Temple of Doom is not my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
I was almost gonna, since you brought it up, I actually was gonna like talk about this after we finished Last Crusade, but since you brought it up, I mean, don't get me wrong, Temple of Doom is fantastic. I really like it, and there's certain moments of the film that I really like, but Yeah, like I still think that Raiders is probably my favorite out of
Hmm.
the three.
Agreed.
Um, I just there's just so many like great moments in that, and um, yeah. And there's a few. I know there's when we get to the Last Crusade, there's definitely some moments in there that are um, uh, a lot of stuff is referenced from. There's a lot. The funny thing with Temple of Doom, a lot of the Indiana Jones ride and stuff like that. I think was it Universal? Is it
No, Disney.
Universal or
Disney.
Disney? Okay, yeah. It's pretty. It's mainly based off Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I mean
The
they have like the boulder, which is from the first one, but yeah, most like the whole concept of that ride, yeah, is the mining car scene in Temple of Doom.
right. Um, and but yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that that's referenced from all three movies, just because it's pretty iconic. But
Right.
yeah, I've always really loved Raiders of the Lost Ark the most.
Mm.
I think it's the funniest of all of them, but and I will I don't know, maybe like rewatching because I haven't seen Last Crusade. I think that's the one I've watched the least of the three.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've only seen it maybe twice. And it's so I'll be going back into Last Crusade kind of fresh because I
Mm.
haven't, like I said, I haven't seen it in forever. So I might change my mind after watching it.
Well, yeah, I think because I've seen both Raiders and Last Crusade equally, like equal a number of times.
Mhm.
But yeah, with Last Crusade, you're definitely going back to like Raiders, Indiana.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and
Well, I know the
it's
Nazis are.
very much like that kind of like suspense and action adventure type feel, like the kind of like you got in Raiders. Not to say, I mean, again, not to say that Temple of Doom was horrible or anything, but it's just not my favorite.
Yeah. 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 Don't. It's kind of like comparing different types of apples. I mean, they're both apples.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, it's like
you know
a Fuji, compared to a Granny Smith or
yeah,
Washington
exactly.
apple. So
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
yeah.
Um, there's something else that I was trying to think of. Something that's I think is kind of you know uh, interesting is thinking of Indiana Jones, and I think last time we talked, I was kind of bringing up how the new Uncharted games are kind of like what people who love Indiana Jones, like Indiana Jones and the Uncharted series are very like there's a lot of connection between
Mm-hmm.
them as far as like that action adventure, searching for treasure, and fame and glory.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of Indiana Jones, of course, he wants that fame and glory. Yet at the same time, he also has a heart and also respects the history of what he's looking for. He's not trying to exploit people or the artifacts that he's trying to gain.
Right, yeah,
I
he's
think
very much in it for altruistic reasons.
right, and and same with the Nathan Drake in the Uncharted series. And I think a lot, but what we see is a lot of times that he's going off all these legends and things for looking at these treasures, and when you come to find the real story behind, they find that treasure, but they find out the real story, and those treasures aren't quite the same what people think that they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It will definitely see that in the case of the Last Crusade. I'm not going to give it away this week, but you're thinking people who are trying to exploit these for personal gain or whatever, they end up trying reaping the consequences of those decisions, and that treasure is not quite what they expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of something that we see in the Indiana Jones series, where it's like, oh, well, that in Raiders, it's like, oh, the Ark, it's not something to be trifled with. It's very dangerous if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with in the Last Crusade, that'll happen, and these stones that in Temple of Doom, there was something more sinister behind those stones. There's a reason why they were separated from one another.
Right.
So I just think that's kind of cool, where it's you kind of see where it's the story is more about the adventure, and when come to find out, it's these treasures and legends had much more danger behind them that most people don't realize, and I don't know. I just kind of like that, where sometimes the journey is much more important than the destination at times.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking, the other thing is, since we're kind of talking Indiana Jones, and to me, I can't think of was it like the Uncharted series without thinking of Indiana Jones. There was and for a long time, fans of that series, there's one actor that has been like, we got to have a live action with this guy, has to play the character of Nathan Drake, and that was Nathan Fillion.
Right.
Yeah, and
he voiced them, right? He voiced in the game.
Nope.
No.
No.
I thought he did.
Nolan, was it Nolan North was the guy that voiced, I believe it was Nolan North that voiced Nathan Drake, who did a fantastic job, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so there was talk of them, like, finally there was a movie that had been greenlit about Uncharted, but then they weren't. They were gonna put Brad Pitt in that main role, and then it wasn't gonna even really. In the end, it wasn't really a good Uncharted movie at all, and it was just gonna be a bad idea. Finally, and it got canceled because there was a lot of backlash concerning it. But I guess finally, because was a Comic-Con had been going on. There had been a bunch of nerd conventions the last couple of months, and there was a fan that got Nathan Fillion to do a fan film as him as Nathan Drake, and it's only like 14 minutes, but damn, it felt so satisfying to see that come to fruition. And Nathan Fillion is perfect as Nathan Drake. Mm-hmm. He's kind of that, like, he has the look, and he has that quick wit and smart mouth that comes with Nathan Drake. I'll have to send you the link to that. It's really good.
So, I guess to wrap up our review, so Temple of Doom, out of 5, what do you give it?
Oh, that's a tough one. I gotta give it 3.
3?
Not because it's not a bad movie, but I don't think it lives up to the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I'd give it a 3 too.
Maybe I'll go up to 3.5 just because it is Indiana Jones.
All right. Well, I mean, from my perspective, it's just just I mean, I don't think it was that fun of a story, and also certain casting decisions.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I kind of like the short round. That was cool. But
No.
one thing that I did laugh out loud about with this movie is well, we talked about that. My favorite scene in Raiders is where he ends up shooting that swordsman.
Mhm.
Well, in this one, there's a moment where there's a bunch of swordsmen that come out and swinging swords around, and he goes to reach for his gun,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
not there.
yeah.
And
Instead of there were two swordsmen this time, and then he was gonna pull his gun, but it's like, oh, I don't have my gun, so I can't do that thing that I did in the first movie.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I think it was paying homage to that
Yeah,
scene.
it was definitely a callback. It was like even though the events of Temple of Doom happened before Raiders, it's kind of a callback. So
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty hilarious.
yeah, that was a good one.
That was probably my favorite scene in the movie. One of them.
All right. Well, yep, you heard it. Robert gives it a 3.5. I gave it a 3. Really quick, my casting problem was with Kate Capshaw.
You didn't like her?
Yeah, she was just so over the top, and everyone knows that Spielberg hired her just to get into her good bits.
That's probably true.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But it did give us one of. But it's like, I mean, it's funny because now, like Kate Capshaw's acting has become kind of like a meme, where to the point where it's like referenced in like everything. Like even Family Guy did like a riff on it. With the Stewie when they're like him and Brian were got lost or whatever, and like were globe hopping around the globe, and they're on a plane, and then Stewie does the reference to that scene in Temple of Doom where the pilots have just leapt out of the plane, and then they took all the parachutes, and then so Indiana brings out inflatable raft, and then Kate Capshaw's character is he's like, we're not sinking, we're crashing, in that kind of like hysterical woman way.
Yeah.
So,
that's true. She was definitely over the top.
Yeah. So.
She wasn't the greatest female lead.
Right. Yeah. She was no. Who was the actress that played Marion Ravenwood? Something Allen.
Great question.
Kristen Allen.
That's a great question.
Was it Kristen Allen?
I think so. Hold on a second. Let me go back and let me find out because I don't remember her name. Let's see. Raiders. Karen Allen.
Karen Allen. There it is. Yeah, she was no Karen Allen. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, she was much better.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't. That's the other thing is like she wasn't like a useless character.
Yeah, like she was like she held her own. She was the counterpoint to Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones, where
exactly.
she was it was like she was like his mirror, but just kind of different. So, just a woman, and she used like she had the same kind of bravery and cunning as Indiana, but just in woman form.
Yep.
And so, yeah. So yeah, that's our review for Temple of Doom. 3 for me, 3.5 for Robert. Again, not the worst movie ever, just not my favorite Indiana Jones movie.